Alrighty, well, hey there, welcome back to the At Wits End podcast, episode 11. If you are keeping up with us, we're into the double digits, second episode of the double digits, I guess. I'm
Yay.
Carson. That is Ken. He is 6,000 miles away this time. Not I am 6,000. He is 6,000 miles away this time. So I'm
Or
here
nine
in
hours behind.
Austria. Yeah, 9 hours behind. He's a time traveler back in time. So I'm here in Austria. He's out in California, and we're chit chatting on the internet. Um,
It's a
talking
beautiful
about
morning here in California.
it's a partly cloudy evening here in Austria, so
Of
weather has been
rain.
a little bit. Weather has definitely changed as of recently. It's definitely gotten into the fall winter mix here, so it was like an immediate change. It wasn't a slow gradual one. It just flipped the switch.
Doesn't ping
Pretty
pong
interesting.
back and forth between like a fall day and back to a summer 100
Not
degree
yet.
day.
Not yet. Yeah, it's been a fall day for the last 2.5 weeks. So maybe one of these days coming up. But yeah, so good weather out there. Heard you were doing some fun stuff this weekend. Going to a bunch of different events. So
Well,
tell us what
two.
you did.
It was a little bit of a last minute thing. We attended a concert in Tahoe, which is a spectacular, well, most people know Lake Tahoe. They have a great Harvey's outdoor venue. It's beautiful location, and the weather was actually perfect. In the those of you who don't know, the past couple of years we've had a lot of fires, and I think last summer a lot of concerts had to be canceled because basically it looked like fog rolling through the concert venue off the mountains. But the weather this time was perfect. What was unusual, it was a 5 p.m. start um, on a
Wait,
Friday. Yeah, it was very unusual. That's why we're a little concerned getting up there and then getting a hotel room. It was a last minute deal, and just couldn't turn it down. So it was a very good country show. They do have a
yeah,
lot of
who'd you
country
see?
shows up there.
Talking about this a
Well,
lot.
I've got Luke Combs, and I've always liked Luke Combs because basically he is uh, my body style, just kind of the average guy, but he has a ton of hits and real popular in country music right now. I think he's even considered one of the top 50 country stars of all
Top
time now, or
50.
something like.
I would assume
Yeah.
he's like top 5, top 10, top
Well,
5 right
currently,
now.
but I mean in all of
Yeah.
history, putting him in
Oh,
with
no,
like Johnny
history.
Cash
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's
What's
hard
kind
to
of
say. Yeah.
what I do like about him, he's a young kid. He's from North Carolina, so I love the Carolinas, and he's got that attitude. I think he actually mentioned at the show he had never been on an airplane until he was like 21, and now he's 25 and he's playing in Lake Tahoe.
I'm pretty sure. If I am remembering this correctly, something he did recently that I was watching. So, College Game Day always has celebrity hosts, and as you can assume by me saying that, Luke Combs was recently on College Game Day as a celebrity host, doing some picks and everything. And the reason for that is you're saying he's from the Carolinas. He was a graduate of Appalachian State,
App
and
State, Boone.
College Game Day was at App State a couple weeks ago for their morning show and their game time show. So he was their guest picker and obviously picked App State. They've
Who's been a
I'll just say
giant
this just
crusher.
a quick aside. App State is having an insane year. Not they're winning games, but just the way they're winning games has been crazy.
And
But
who they're beating.
the whole aside. Um, so well, it's funny because they're going into Texas A&M and beat Texas A&M on the road, but they also go into like having one of the craziest games fourth
Ever.
quarter the craziest probably
Hail
fourth
Mary
quarter
pass.
ever against North
Yeah.
Carolina. The what was it Toledo? Like who were they playing? Like
Toledo.
not Toledo. Was it Toledo?
I think so. Somebody out of
Whoever
Ohio.
that Hail Mary. I think it was Toledo. That Hail
Yeah.
Mary. Like they've been playing crazy games, but it's a whole nother episode.
Well,
But yeah,
and
so Luke
for
Combs.
but I think I need to explain for those of you who are not familiar with American football. Not that we have a huge subscription base for people listening, but those in Europe, a Hail Mary pass is when the court, usually the end of the game, probably no chance of winning. It's a 1% chance. He just throws up the ball and hopes somebody on his catches it. And that happened. So
Yeah, last second
I
Hail
think it was the
Mary.
very
So
last second. Yeah.
yeah, it was no time left on the clock. So yeah, craziness. But yeah, so Luke Combs, an App
Put on
State
a good
grad.
show. Yeah,
Yeah,
we kind of missed the first two opening acts just because Tahoe gets crowded. It started at 5. He came on I think at like 7:30, but he I think he ended by about 9:30, so it ended early, which was kind
interesting.
of
I wonder
disappointing.
is that specific to his show? Or is that with other Tahoe shows you've seen?
Well, usually a lot of areas like the Santa Barbara County Bowl, there's a time limit. I think Tahoe has a time limit
Yeah,
of
yeah.
10 o'clock. I know some of the bigger stars we've seen there, like Keith Urban and Tim McGraw. I think they went past the time. I think you get penalized. I'm not sure about Tahoe, but I'm
But
pretty sure
but
they
it
have some
it's
ordinances.
it's probably
It's
like a
him.
10 o'clock sound
Yeah.
ordinance, and
Yeah.
if they go over to like 10:15 or something.
Right. And
They
so,
don't go to like
hey,
midnight
Luke, if
time.
you're listening to this, play longer, come out and do some encores like they used to do in the 70s and the 80s. But you put on a great show. What was interesting is young and older crowd. We saw an old friend of yours there who had hoped to propose to his girlfriend, but it didn't happen. Uh, Sorry, Joey. Maybe next time. We'll shout out to you. But all around us were young teenage girls behind us. And so they know the words to every song, and they don't sing, they scream out the words. So it was fun and interesting, but the place was loud, it was rocking, it was a great show. So
What type of I guess what type of showman is he? Is he like a storyteller? Is he just
well,
engaging the
yes and no. I mean,
audience
I think he puts on the same show he probably did in a bar in Boone, North Carolina. um, I think he's a very down to earth guy. He's a humble guy. Um, and I think his lyrics kind of reach out to a lot of diverse people. So he is a showman, and I would
but
recommend
he's
anybody to go see him.
it, it sounds like he's not one of those guys that's like in between songs like having a talking for 5 minutes, chit chatting about something and then goes to the next song.
Well, I'll say this: years ago, I saw another country guy that was up and coming, Blake Shelton, and I loved the show. It was a great show. I think it was at the old Arco Arena, which they just tore down, so it no longer
In the
exists.
process, yeah.
No, I think it's gone as of
Has
today.
gone completely.
But he had some hits, and it was early in his career. And the one thing I didn't like, at first, it's great. He would talk a lot in between songs, a lot of stories. And I go, wow, he just doesn't have a lot of hits yet. But that was kind of one of my early country concerts at Arco. But he put on a great show. But Luke, he did and he didn't. Um, he did talk a bit. I think he's a shy guy. So I think it probably early on when he started playing big arenas, it probably took some time to get over that shyness. But like I said, down to earth guy, put on a great show. I don't think anybody was disappointed there. Everybody walked out having a great time. So
Yeah, he's interesting because he's very he's culturally like he plays video games with popular streamers. I know that he's on social media, so he's very much into the younger generation and stuff that people do.
yeah, he
But
spans
he's
them
playing
both.
country music,
Yeah,
and he gets to like your generation that likes country music still. Like he's still got those like Appalachian roots and everything. So it's
I think he's
interesting. He's
also a
a
guy that he could walk through a lot of major cities in the U.S. and he looks like any other bro wearing a trucker hat. And I think that's one of the appeal. I think people see him as the guy next door or the guy down the road. I can see him driving.
I
What
see,
do you call a
see
pickup
him
in
as
Carolina?
uh,
The Carolina Slide or something
a
like that.
squat. Yeah,
Yeah,
Carolina
I
squat.
see him
I was
driving
gonna
one of
say.
those.
I was gonna say I can see him riding the lawnmower on
Yeah,
a
a
Sunday
riding
morning
lawnmower.
in the big big acreage farm or something.
I think he's one of those guys when would be good to have a beer with. So
Yeah, so that was your what Friday
uh,
night?
Friday night, and then
Yeah,
I was
back to
talked
back.
into I was talked into going to another show, which I will go see pretty much any show. I do like live music. Um, kind of, I won't say I grew up around it, but that's where I met my wife. Kind of, we worked in the same venue, but she convinced me to go to get tickets, and we went to see Michael Buble, and I've seen him
Buble,
on TV. Yeah, bubbly, the
bubbly.
Capri Sun of Europe. But she actually offered to take her mother instead of me if I really didn't want to go. But like I said, I'll go see any show. I'll see, Mozart in Vienna, full orchestra playing. To I'd go see 50 Cent with you if you go to that show. To who's the other guy that's coming, the TV star? Kiefer Sutherland. I'd go see
Kiefer
him,
Sutherland.
even though I have no idea what his music's like. So
Would you see
um,
Dead Mouse?
I would see Dead Mouse.
Really?
I, yeah, I just don't like to go to huge festivals anymore, like Lollapalooza or what's the one you went to? I got to
Coachella.
Coachella. I have no desire anymore to do that. I don't want to stand in line for hours to use a restroom and get all dusty and dirty.
Well, you did
But
want to go to some Florida festival recently, didn't you?
well, that's because we were there and it was on the beach, and you could walk down to the beach and go back out. What was the name of that festival? A great festival.
Was that
Luke Combs was
Shipwreck
there.
Festival? Was that
Yeah,
Shipwreck or something? I
yeah, I
don't
can't
remember.
remember. It was near Hollywood, Florida. It was on the beach. But
Anyway, yeah, back
yeah,
to
getting
Buble.
back to Michael Bublé. So it was at Golden One Arena, which is considered one of the more modern and technologically advanced arenas in the country. Um, and I told the wife, I go, wow, it's going to be an older crowd. But I was shocked. And I said it would probably mostly be a lot of women, but it was pretty diverse. There were a lot of young girls and kids there that were singing along to his songs, which shocked me. Not shocked, it surprised me. And I will say this: he is a phenomenal showman. I'd seen him on TV. He's a funny guy. He's Canadian, and I need to look it up, but he spoke Spanish a lot. I mean, he came out in his first interaction with the crowd. He started speaking Spanish to a lot of. Obviously, we're in California, and so I don't know if he's Spanish or he's married to somebody that's Spanish, but he's fluent in Spanish, and full orchestra. I was
Hmm.
very surprised by that, and the musicianship was phenomenal. He had what was interesting: the string section were all women, and about three or four of them were from the Sacramento area, so they had family there. All the horn section, guitar, percussion were all men, and they really got into the crowd, and the crowd got into them. And the the video and light show that they put on was probably one of the best I've seen at Arco. He actually had a stage, not Arco, but at
Golden
Golden One.
One.
He had the stage, but he also had a platform that went out almost all the way to the seats. I mean, it went out probably, I don't know, 40, 50 yards. And he had a little square platform where some of his band would go out and play with him. So I felt bad for the people that bought seats right up front because he spent probably half the show behind them, and so those would have been the prime seats. Um, I can't say I knew any of his hits. A lot of the songs sounded familiar, but he played a lot of classical, Frank Sinatra, the crooner age. But he was, like I said, hilarious. Made a lot of jokes. Played for a long time. I think we finally got out of there about 10:30, maybe even 11. So I
So,
would I would recommend the
s-
show.
yeah, so comparing him to like the style Luke Combs, obviously very different music, but like in terms of
Yeah.
their like entertainment and showmanship and like just the concert um
Oh,
style, I guess.
I would say Mr. Buble is very polished. I mean, I think he's been doing this since he was a kid. He always
Yeah,
liked the old
yeah,
tunes. Um, he came out in a suit with patent leather shoes on. He had all the moves. They're completely opposites.
yeah. And they've
Um,
been on like TV, or he's been on TV, and he's been on he's been doing concerts and tours for
yeah, he's always like, I don't
so
know, the
long.
Today Show.
Does
He
the
is a funny
does the
guy.
holiday specials?
Actually, you know what? Put those two together would be an interesting duet, kind of like Justin Timberlake and Chris Stapleton, if you remember that. I don't think most
Yeah.
people ever heard of Chris Stapleton. Then he did that duet with Justin Timberlake, and he blew up overnight. You know, he's somebody I would say is in a similar situation, but older. He wrote songs for everybody else. Um, I've seen Chris Stapleton in the big arenas and stuff, and he puts on a great show, a great guitarist, great songwriter, great musician. But I think he's meant for a smaller venue, like a honky tonk or a bar or something like that. That's where I would like to see him. Both those guys, I guess they're like true country.
Interesting.
So yeah, and then well, let me ask you. So when we were last together, I think our last night, we went and saw what I was somewhat hesitant to go see, just because I'm not into big arena shows. But you might say the clock's running out on the
Oh,
time to
you
see the
mean like
Rolling Stones. So it was kind of a surprise for the wife. I'd asked around, everybody said, you got to see him. So last night in Vienna, we went and saw the Rolling Stones in
the
their big,
last night we were in Vienna, not last night. The
yeah,
last night
the
we were together.
very last night we're in
Not
Vienna. So
yesterday. The Stones were there beginning
a month ago.
early mid July, mid July.
Oh, wait. And by
Uh,
the way, Michael Buble is coming to Vienna in February.
Interesting. I probably won't go see him, but
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
did mention to you this be another topic, but Luke Combs is going on tour in England,
England.
maybe Europe
He's,
too. So
yeah.
that'll be interesting for a
Yeah.
country music
Carson,
star.
he's going to have a interesting
I,
experience next
yeah,
week, and
we'll get to that
we'll
at the end of the
surprise you with that.
episode. Yeah, so
But getting back to God, where was I? Went off topic.
you talking about the Stones?
Oh, the Stones. So we went and saw the Stones. A friend of mine from high school joined us. Maybe repetitive. We may have talked about it in an earlier episode. So I mean, a historic rock band, and it's 60th anniversary. Which kind of, well, when I saw the T-shirts and stuff and the tour, I go, "Holy crap! They've been playing 60 years." And sure enough, that's a long time. And I will say this: it was probably one of the shows that I would say surprised me the most because I expected to be disappointed. You know what's the term? The Paris syndrome, where you have all these high expectations and it just doesn't come through. But uh, they put on a great show. Mick Jagger, obviously dyes his hair, but he moved around the stage like a 30-year-old. He still has it. The rest of the band was good, so there was no disappointments there. What's
Yeah, I
your
mean they had
impression of it?
that. So they had a. I mean, it's obviously the Stones, right? So
Well, that
for me, I'm not a big concert person. I don't go to concerts a lot. Um, but the Stones are one of those bands that are just like above, you know,
they're
the
legendary.
rest. Yeah, there's few bands that kind of hit that echelon, and the Stones are one of them. AC/DC.
Which you saw at
I
Coachella. So when you say you don't
yeah
go, you did see them at Coachella.
yeah, and we'll talk maybe a little bit about festivals later, but AC/DC. I think I think like not necessarily Nirvana, but like Foo Fighters because of Dave Grohl and some other stuff. I think they're very much they're very close or near that echelon. The Beatles were obviously there, but you can't see them in concert. But maybe Paul
Well,
McCartney
I've
himself.
seen half of them now.
Yeah, the Elton John, I think is at that
Yeah.
echelon. There's certain artists that just in bands, artists and bands that hit this like level that even if you're not into concerts or stuff like that, like it's still kind of a, it's
I hate to say
it's
bucket
going to
list,
see
but
him
a
is
bucket
important.
list. Yeah,
Yeah, like
they're
it's
a important
like you
figure
say you saw
in
him.
modern music. The
Yeah,
last
it's
say 100 years.
it's a big thing to say you saw them live in concert, and I will say like for me, it's just like wasn't it's nothing too terribly special. Like I know a lot of people there were just like hardcore into it. It's cool hearing some songs like you hear on the
Well, like
radio
my friend
live.
Hobo. I mean, he came from Budapest. He knew everything
Yes,
about the Stones.
his name is Hobo.
Oh, he's not a
Um,
hobo,
yeah,
but
his name is
yeah,
Hobo.
I'll have to make
Um,
sure he listens to this podcast because he is the number one blues or musician in Hungary. He
Yeah,
puts
so
on a
he
good show. Don't understand anything he sings about, but he's been doing it for. I think
yeah,
he's
you
been doing
became
it
friends
60
with him
years.
because you sat next to him at the
Yeah, I
Stones
showed him
shows.
some kindness with his knees. So shout out to Hobo, and look his stuff up on YouTube. It's the Hobo Blues Band out of Budapest, Hungary,
Yeah,
and I think
so
he was on tour.
um,
But
the
wait, I do
Stones
want to
like
mention you were talking about legendary bands. One of the bands you mentioned was the Foo Fighters, who you've been trying to see, and who I believe was or was going to be in at a festival in Austria when you first moved there. But I forgot I saw them too,
when
and
did
saw
you
them at the old Arco Arena with your mom. And I actually got down to the mosh pit. She didn't want to go. We were on the floor, and that was I forgot when thinking about bands I've seen that were a surprise, and I enjoyed the show. That was one of them. I think
all right,
David
yeah,
Grohl's a great musician.
I have no doubt that a Dave Grohl show would be just an epic show.
Yeah, I
Like
hate to say
he's
Dave Grohl. I want to say Foo Fighters because I don't want to say
yeah,
he's great, but I want to include the whole band.
but yeah. So you talked about what's his name, not Keith Richards, the other dude,
Mick
um,
Jagger.
Mick Jagger running around the stage. And there was a point where they went off for a little while to,
Yeah.
I assume, take an old man potty break and get some rest.
Hey,
And
watch what
I
you're
think
saying.
it's Keith Richards came on and did like a solo performance of his
Yeah,
new album for like a few songs to give the rest of the band a break.
yeah. But
Which was
Keith
kind of
looks
lame
like
because
he's been 70-year old since the '60s. I mean, he's always
they
looked
all
old to me.
yeah, they all look just dead basically. But yeah, that was kind of like a buzzkill in the middle of the show because obviously they have so many bangers of songs like that
Yeah,
just come out and then everyone knows the words. And they started the show with great songs. They ended the show with great songs. With like the middle of it with Keith
filler.
Richards, yeah, doing his solo act was boring and no one really knew what he was saying. It's just
Yeah,
it was just like a timeout for the rest of the band for Mitch
yeah.
Jagger to do what
And
they
a
needed
lot
to
of the
do.
concerts are to promote a new album. I think more so in the past than currently.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, the thing with COVID too, everybody's on tour now to make up for all the lost income they had. And getting back to Michael Buble, he joked about that. He go see him. His jokes, his comedy routine is as good as his music, I think. But yeah, I thought the Stones was very good. You know, maybe not as good as they were 30, 40 years ago, but for a stadium band, historic band, they were great.
yeah. I mean, they're just their song lists is just unbeatable. Like no one can touch how many
Yeah.
hits they have. So,
The only thing
um,
I knew it had happened. They won't play Brown Sugar anymore, which is kind of a disappointment, kind of in the age of political correctness, but they have so much in their catalog of hits they could play for days. So no disappointments there.
what was your favorite song at the show?
It's kind of like who's your favorite kid? You love them
Me.
all. Yeah. But I can't say there was one that was more than the other, whether it be
See, for
satisfaction.
me, it was yeah, for me. So yeah, Satisfaction makes a lot of sense. Um, for me, it's a pretty easy one because I think the song itself, and this is controversial in my opinion, but I think the song itself is the best song they sing. Wild Horses.
Yeah, yeah.
I like
I
the
had
way that song is incredible. It's an incredible song. It's so different from the rest of their discography that
yeah.
it's
Well,
such a good song.
that is one of my favorite songs. In that, not only the Stones, but there were other artists that played it over the years, like Linda Ronstadt. I used to love Linda Ronstadt. She sang a great version of that. So,
Yeah. Yep.
as you know, we're from Santa Barbara originally. Your mom and I worked together, although we really didn't know each other at the county bowl there. So we saw some of the greatest acts of all times, and a very diverse uh, list of artists came through that venue and still do. So,
So go through some of the ones that you saw back when you
well,
were working. So you were working and saw
you were
some people.
you were talking about the greatest artists of all time. I would put up there Van Morrison as one of the best ever.
Interesting.
songwriters.
Okay.
I love Van Morrison. I love his catalog, but he is also one of the biggest disappointments. He is known for not playing to the crowd, and I've seen him probably 5 times, and it was a great show. And the worst one was ever at the Santa Barbara County Bowl. I got a bunch of buddies from high school. Hey, you got to go see Van Morrison, man. He's legendary. And they were all like, who? And I think we paid, I don't know, $15. And I got all the
Dang,
tickets. We get there.
expensive.
Yeah, for that time, it was expensive. It was raining, misting how it does in Santa Barbara, the June gloom kind of thing. And I don't think he said a word to the crowd. He just kind of played and then left the stage. And my buddies thought I was the biggest asshole for even thinking it. They couldn't believe we. Actually, some of them still owe me money for their tickets, and that was probably 40 years ago.
Shout them out.
So
Get your money back with
no,
inflation and interest.
but the county bowl. I
What
think when I
else?
first started working there, Bruce Springsteen,
Okay.
Bob Marley.
Much younger.
Bob
Did you,
Marley died recently.
if I remember right, the Who was there?
No, the Who
Did
I
you say
saw in
they?
L.A.
L.A. Okay.
Had backstage passes for them, and they're coming here in a couple weeks. So
Wow.
yeah,
I didn't know they were still touring.
yeah, it's kind of surprising. So
I
like I
also
said, I
didn't
think
know they're alive. Like all of them are still alive.
yeah, they're actually they're one of the more intact bands, I think.
Well, this
But
is that's the thing about like rock bands from your era. Like a normal person, okay, they're probably still alive. A rock band from your era, they were into some sketchy stuff, and so like asking the question if they're still alive, even if they're not super old, is pretty.
well,
You
the
know,
Stones is look at the Stones, but yeah, you
yeah,
say
I don't
that.
know how they're alive. They have a curse or something.
Yeah, it's funny because where we live, where you grew up, we have so many venues. You wouldn't think of this as a hot spot for concerts, but within an hour radius, there's probably 10 great venues. And right now, well, think about it. Golden One, not an hour radius. I'll include Tahoe.
Two, well, if
Tahoe,
you're including Tahoe, are you including San Francisco too?
no, I would, yeah, nobody, the Bay Area is completely walled off from this area. Um, Tahoe, Thunder Valley, Hard Rock,
Okay,
um, Wheatland, Memorial, um,
that
Golden One.
wine,
Oh,
the
Arco's
wine
gone.
place.
The
What
what?
was the? Wasn't there like a winery out in like
Oh
the
yeah, there's a
middle or
bunch of
something?
yeah. I can't remember the name of the wineries, and we've seen some bands out there. So well, I've gotten about 8, so there's probably a couple more I'm missing. But
Smaller ones, but
Rayleigh Field, they have a country fest
yeah,
there.
occasionally.
Years ago we saw Tom Petty there at Rayleigh Field, so that's another one. And then Cal Expo, there we go. That's 10. They just had Country in the Park, which I don't consider Cal Expo a park, but oh, and then where they have the big Hard Rock Festival, like with Slipknot
But
down at the river,
yeah, it was Discovery Park.
Discovery Park. I forgot
So I was
about
gonna
that's a
say
big
that's
festival.
funny enough. That's the first like concert I remember going to. Um, was we did you took us to a
Oh
Discovery Park like mini festival.
yeah,
Um, that I think your friends at the radio helped us get tickets to that one, and
yeah. Shout out to iHeart. Thank you.
that is like the first concert I guess I truly remember going to, and it
Yeah,
was headlined by um
I
oh
can't think of the name either. They were really popular at the time.
Shrek,
Yes,
the Shrek, not
the
Smash
song
Mouth.
Smash Mouth.
Smash
Yeah,
Mouth was headlining this. Yeah, this was peak
20 years
Shrek
ago.
era, and I'm a
Yeah,
believer. So they were huge, and I was like, just thinking back, like I kind of surprised they headlined this place. But if I remember right, he was a big storyteller. He told a lot of stories. Their lead
yeah. I
singer
think he
when
was.
he was
Yeah,
doing it.
yeah,
But yeah, that was the first like concert I remember going to. It was like the Discovery Park um show, like mini festival. I think it was like a 2 day, like 5 or afternoon to like 10 o'clock kind of
yeah.
festival or something. Mostly families and stuff. So That's like the earliest one I have. Unfortunately, you took me to a Kenny Loggins concert in Lake Tahoe. I don't remember anything about that show, which I think speaks to Kenny Loggins for
No, 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 no.
me.
Hey,
Yeah,
Kenny,
no, no,
Kenny,
no.
Kenny. Wait,
It speaks
no,
to Kenny Loggins. I don't
no.
remember a single thing about that.
That's because you didn't grow up with Loggins and Messina. Kenny Loggins. I don't even want to call it yacht rock, but I think he's put in that category with Christopher Cross and those guys. I consider Kenny. He lives there. We had some interaction when we lived in Santa Barbara. He's a Santa Barbara guy. I think he tried to get in a country. Your mom and I just saw him. I don't know if it was this year. Yeah,
I'm
I think
sorry.
the beginning of no. He was great. Put on a great show, but and you know why it sold out, which I didn't think it was because I waited and just kind of we got tickets at the last minute comped. I think, but Top Gun because he's I forgot he is the guy that sang soundtrack to every freaking movie from Footloose to Top Gun, and with the new Top Gun movie, people were showing up in Gun hats, and the movie was out at the time, and that like you were saying at the Stones, there was filler in between. I like the old Kenny Loggins and the Santa Barbara scene that he used to, that was his heyday with Loggins and Messina, and shortly after his solo career. But all the soundtracks, I was shocked about how many soundtrack albums he has. That filled up probably half the show, and oh, it was great. But like
Interesting, because yeah, yeah,
He
for
did
me,
Caddyshack.
like
Think about it.
Kenny Loggins, when we went to that, I was I think 12,
Yeah,
13.
you and Jack hated it.
So that was like 15 years ago. Yeah, you took my brother to, and we decreased the average age there from like 67 to like
Yeah,
65. It
yeah.
was so old. Like all the people there were so old. Is insane. And you brought two like teenage boys, like preteen boys, to this like Kenny Loggins. It was. I
Well,
think we
we
fell
we
asleep. Like
we
it was
took you
so
because
dumb.
I mean we consider
I think you
ourselves
just.
Santa Barbarians. You guys were all born in Santa Barbara. You actually played with Kenny Loggins' kids at Oak Park, and we used to hike. Go by Kenny Loggins' house. Mom kind of worked associated with Kenny Loggins, but that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. So
So
so yeah, that was a disappointment to you. What I'm curious though. You've been to a lot of concerts, so you talked
well, I
about
was
the
going
Van
to get
Morrison
back.
one.
No, get the age thing and
Okay.
being in kind of a central area for concerts. So we have, I never thought I'd say I'm glad we live near some Indian casinos, but one of the top Indian casinos in the country is Thunder Valley, and they just built a new indoor venue, but for the past, I don't know, 10 years, they've had outdoor venues. So any weekend, pretty much, we could go to a concert. And
Yeah,
the
you
thing
get.
about, but the
Oh,
thing
go ahead.
about
I
those
think you're gonna
concerts
say it.
are they are all some bands from the 70s, some bands from the 80s, and some bands from the 90s, and they're all out touring trying to make money. And you could have a band from Bad Company to most recently the Little River Band to Earth, Wind and Fire may only have one original member, but I've realized that it's still just the experience. And like seeing CCR or somebody associated with CCR, they're singing songs. You look at the crowd, and everybody knows the words, and they're singing along with the
Yeah, you
Creedence.
Thunder Valley is great because you get all the bands that aren't. They're not anymore super popular, but at one point they're probably pretty popular, if not very popular.
Well, yeah,
And you're getting
I'll
them at
give
a
you
budget, and they all
well,
have songs that you know the words to, and like, but they're just touring just because they're not really producing new music, and they're just getting their money, and that's their like income. But
well,
they were big, and now you
well.
can see them for a discount.
I'll give you a perfect example. You gave, I think, your first concert. I think mine. I think I saw the Grateful Dead in Santa Barbara as the first, but
Oh,
the
another one
first,
of those like echelon bands, in my
yeah. But I
opinion.
was never a Deadhead.
A
Even keep
Deadhead,
them.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
That's funny, actually.
I remember with my buddies, and Randy had converted his Monza, Chevy Monza, if you know what a Monza was, put a V8 in it. And we got tickets to go see an arena show at the Big A, Anaheim Stadium. It was Boston, Black Sabbath, a couple of other bands,
Jesus.
And the opening act, nobody had ever heard of, is a band called Van Halen with this dude in spandex called David Lee Roth. So it was kind of the first exposure to a big arena, those bands of Van Halen, and there were a lot of drugs around us. It was like weird. Just that's why I'm not a big fan of. But Boston, which I consider one of the original arena bands, just because of their the type of music they play is meant for a big arena. They played Thunder Valley a couple years ago, and I got tickets. I go again the Paris effect. I had very low expectations. The opposite. I did not. I thought that they would be shitty as hell, and they were phenomenal. And I think maybe only two original members, but I said, "Wow, it sounds better than it did at Anaheim Stadium." And there's been a lot of acts. Earth, Wind, and
Well,
Fire.
one you and I went to that is a
Oh,
band I grew up with because
yes,
I listened to the radio in the car all the time, and 94.7 is a station in Sacramento, and they were always on this station, and so I
I
grew
hope
up
it's the
with this
iHeart
band
station.
late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s. California as all get out. This band Sublime.
Yes,
Their
and
their discography fantastic. They didn't have the original singer. I'm not. I can't
what
remember
Rome?
exactly
It's
why.
Rome. Rome.
But the original
Yeah, I
lead
can't remember
singer.
his name, but Rome does a
Um,
great job. I would go see
yeah,
them
yeah.
again in a heartbeat
But Sublime with Rome
at
played
Thunder Valley.
fantastic. Yeah, at Thunder Valley, and I was just like, every time they played a new song, I was like, man, this is such a great song. Like I remember listening to this on the radio. It was one of those ones. They're not really producing new music, but
Well,
you just know all their songs they're playing.
and again, I knew Sublime. I knew some of their songs. I was like, yeah, I'll go. I wasn't, but I was like, I forgot this was their song. I forgot this was their song, and it was great because it's it's kind of
It's
alternative reggae and
yeah, they I'm pretty sure they have the title track on the a video game I grew up with that I very clearly remember. But Dave Mirra BMX on the
yeah.
PlayStation One, I'm pretty sure Sublime has the title track to that, and man, that was a throwback here and that. Like I pictured myself, playing that video game with Sublime playing, so that was funny.
Yeah, and let me list some of the shows at Thunder Valley. This one, I convinced Larry and Eric to go to this, and Larry's into music. I'm into music. He used to play in a band in Ventura, Santa Barbara, so we were close. Um, and we got tickets, and we got there. Nobody was in the stands, and then as we got inside, we realized everybody was at the stage, and it was slightly stupid and Revolution. We loved it. I had never really heard of those bands, and actually, a guy I went to high school with knows some of the guys in the band. I think they're out of Ventura, and we've been trying to go see them again. Maybe go down south because we were on hall time, and we ended up getting there late. But it was probably one of the best shows we had been to together.
They play. I know they play a lot, and I remember a bunch of my friends in like high school went to go see him in like Tahoe or something.
Yeah, yeah, that was an.
They're yeah they
But some of the guys that I grew up with, George Thorogood, the Destroyers. I had. Do you know who that is? Yeah, one Scotch, one. You'd have to look up the song. But he used to play in Santa Barbara a lot. And I thought he had died because I had heard nothing about him. And then a couple years ago, he and Brian Seltzer um, were playing at Thunder Valley. And if you don't know who Brian Seltzer is, the Brian Seltzer Orchestra, but he played with the Stray Cats during the 80s, which used to play in Santa Barbara. And we got free tickets, got on the floor and kind of a front row of a section. And he put on a great show. And kind of you're shaking your mom was the same way, but she loved the show. It was a phenomenal show.
I just don't know who
Earth,
they are. So
look them up. You'd actually, and Earth, Wind, and Fire. We've
uh,
probably seen them 3 times now. They were phenomenal. Um,
so all right. So
wait, Peter Frampton
okay,
and who's the blues legend? Not
the
Buddy
Blues
Guy.
Brothers.
His guitar, Lucille. BB King. They played together.
Okay,
BB King has since
interesting.
passed. Great musician, obviously a superstar of blues, but he would not get off the stage. He was hitting on the ladies in the front row, and Peter Frampton had to come out, and the bodyguards actually took him off stage. I think he wouldn't leave. So
Interesting.
yeah, Thunder Valley's had some great shows. I've been lucky enough. Your mom and I didn't know each other at the time. We worked at the County Bowl, but
So, so let me ask. So you've been to a lot of concerts over your life, a lot of concerts. If you had to pick one single one, and it may not be because of the band, it may be because of the venue, the experience they put on, or the songs they had. That one show that you've been to, and one show that you wish you've been to. So, what was your favorite show? Again, not necessarily just the band, but the
it,
experience, the
I
venue, like all that
no,
stuff,
that's
and one
I've
that you
always
wish
said
you went to.
it's the Clash.
Okay, yeah,
So I've probably seen them 4 times, but there was the one show. I think it was at the County Bowl. I think it was a combat rock tour. I came out in my boxers. It was so hot, pulsating, and it was a wild crowd, and it was a great time. They were kind of considered punk, and the quality of the music may not have been there, but it was a fun time. It was during, I think, the Sandinista album had just been out, during that kind of the second wave of the British invasion of the '80s. So it was a
the
fun
British
time.
punk invasion.
Yeah, and again, getting back to the smaller venues, you'll see them come through, like all these bands that used to headline in Santa Barbara, like Flock of Seagulls,
Oh,
the
jeez.
Motels, Bow Wow Wow. Uh, your mom and I saw Bow Wow Wow in the Motels recently at the Rockland Quarry. I forgot another venue that's opened up and
Little tiny
has
one, but yeah.
yeah, but the band Parmalee came through there. The Tubes played there, and they were headlining back then. But Bow Wow Wow was terrible.
Okay,
And
so that's the Clash all time favorite at one you've been to. What is one that you wish you've gone to, if there
I
is
would have
one?
liked to see the Clash in London during the
Oh,
London
just
Calling tour.
in
The both
England
both
and
sides,
in their
yeah,
home.
yeah.
Interesting.
I think that would be
All right,
phenomenal.
getting away from the Clash, what is any other bands that you think
Stand
you
out.
would
What
you wish you would have seen?
I can't really say that because I think I've seen pretty much everybody.
Where
Um,
did you? I guess the era was on, but like Nirvana, was that
no,
when
I
you were
haven't.
like when I was
I
little
never
kids?
really was that into the grunge thing. That's why for a long time I stayed away from the Foo Fighters. I thought they were too grunge for me. I mean, I go to Seattle a lot, and I'm not into the grunge thing. You know.
Okay, so I'm trying to think the other.
Well,
Did
no,
you
I'll
see the
give you.
Who? You saw
Yeah,
the
saw the
Who?
Who. Yeah,
Yeah,
got
yeah.
backstage passes. But
Um,
here's no. You had mentioned some bands earlier that are legendary, and years ago when we thought it was his final tour, Elton John, he had a residency in Vegas, and so I pride myself on going to cheap or free concerts. But I paid the money for this. It was our anniversary. I think he called it the Red Piano Tour. He said it was his final tour, and I
yeah, this
think
was
that
like five
this is
years ago,
five or
wasn't it?
six. Yeah, he's still
Yeah,
on his final tour.
yeah.
But the thing about paying money in Vegas is they build the theaters for sound and light. So the venue is perfect. And I got in there and I thought, wow, this was worth it because he sat at the piano and he actually talked to the crowd without a mic and you could hear him everywhere. And the show was spectacular. And again, he had such a wide catalog of hits that you grew up with from. I remember spinning on a little turntable, Crocodile Rock, on a turntable, listening to it over and over again. Turntable's that little thing that had records and you spin around.
Yeah.
That was my
Actually,
first big
that reminds me. Just talking about Elton John. Did you see
Bernie
Billy
Taupin.
Joel? Have you seen Billy Joel?
Yeah, yeah. And I don't remember where.
More recently, or
No,
back
no,
when he was coming
early
up?
on, early on.
Okay.
I always liked Billy Joe. I won't say I was a huge fan of him. I wouldn't travel to Madison Square Garden to go see him, which he's always playing. But I
Yeah.
would like to see him together. That would be an interesting show again.
That'd be insane.
Yeah,
That would be an insane show. Actually, that'd be
yeah.
crazy.
But
So okay, so
wait, another show in Vegas. Not to cut you off, and we had tried to see them. I don't know how many times. I would put him as the American Rolling Stones, Aerosmith.
yeah,
Your,
yeah,
yeah, your mom,
yeah.
great band, um, a lot of hits, and then they started their residency. And when I heard, it's kind of like the F1 race. I got in early. We got tickets the second weekend of the residency, which happened to be our anniversary, and they built the theater for them. A great show, sound was perfect, crowd was perfect, everything was perfect.
Okay, so a lot of the music that you go see concerts, and obviously makes a lot of sense, is from your era of growing up,
Hmm.
late 70s, 80s. Most of your modern music that you see, I think, tends to be country music. Are there other? So you mentioned an artist at the beginning, 50 Cent. Are there other stuff like that, artists like that, you would be curious to go to one of their concerts, like a 50 Cent or a Jay Z, a Beyonce?
Oh,
I talked about him earlier, but like a Dead Mouse
yeah.
or a some other
Well,
like
I've
electronic
seen like God, what's the band? I went Sammy, Mute
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 Math,
Mouse. Mute,
Mute
yeah,
Math.
saw them. I really liked them.
That was a
Uh,
long time ago. I don't think they've put out a hit in a
yeah, they
while.
haven't. Yeah,
It's
but
got to been like
I do
15
like a
years
lot
ago.
of the alternative bands. You know,
94.7, I think, was where that all comes from because we listen to that radio station religiously in
yeah,
the car.
but there's the club here, Ace of Spades,
Ace of Spades.
has a lot of
Yeah.
different. We saw Wow there when you guys were kids, or Sammy and I did. Remember Wow? I
No.
think it was Wow. They did that kind of experimental video with the sounds with the cars, and they were on the treadmills and stuff.
Oh,
I think
that's not wow.
what
That's
were they called?
um
I actually really enjoyed that show, and then they blew up for a little while. Now they've disappeared.
they do well no, they did another one. Okay, go. Here it
Okay,
goes
go.
again is the song.
Wow, Wow was
Yeah. Wow
the
was like the
'80s.
80s. Yeah.
Yeah, what's his name?
Okay, go. Yeah, they did another song, but yeah, that was a legendary music video just for its uniqueness, I think, in it.
Yeah,
Early viral video in my opinion.
yeah. They were very artistic, and I enjoyed them. But yeah, I like a lot of the more alt bands that are out there, but I can't think of their names because I don't listen to a lot of them until they.
Yeah, yeah, just
I know
like you're
their
saying,
music, but
stuff
not the
that
name of the bands.
94.7 aired
Yeah.
in our area. Yeah, it's true. And I think it's, with a lot of modern artists, so like there's like two different styles, or I guess with not two different styles for each category. The concerts are very different because with like a rapper, um, like a rapper, it's typically he's typically the solo, or he or she is the solo act on stage. So they don't have like the support of a band, so it's definitely different. And like the single guy has to bring the energy for the entire crowd. You can't really
Well, see,
rely
that's
on
where
music
yeah,
like a
you've talked
band
about going
backup.
to a lot of the what's the big electronica shows like Snow Globe up at Tahoe and some of those.
Well, like Lollapalooza and Coachella and
I just don't understand
Ultra Music.
the attraction or somebody coming in and spinning music. I can see it at a club, and maybe it's because yeah, we went to a charity event in Santa Barbara years ago.
Red Foundation.
Yes, and who was the big DJ? Female DJ. She went out with
No
the
idea.
red-haired actress, um, Ronson,
Lindsay. Oh,
Lindsay Lohan's
she's
girlfriend.
yeah. I wouldn't call her big.
Well, at that time, she was in the news, I
No,
think, because she was dating
because she
Lindsay
was dating,
Lohan.
but she wasn't a big
And
like producer.
you know my buddy that kind of put on that function. We
Yeah.
won't mention his name anymore, but I think he paid her like $5,000 to come up from L.A. And your mom and I were there when she arrived at the Coral Casino, and all she did was open up a laptop, plug it in, and start playing music. And I heard afterwards she also destroyed the hotel room. So, it has nothing to do with music, but
I think. I
I
think.
don't think that takes that much talent, is what I.
Well, see, there's a thing that very much differentiates a quality like producer. DJ is like the common term, but I think it's more producers, the good ones. But the ability to live mix and everything, and do it on the flow. Like, yes, there are the people that come in and just throw a laptop and press play, And that's and that's I will say that is part of what they do. They do have to like create their sets ahead of time, but they do a lot of different changing of stuff, and they'll add different things, and they'll
Yeah, but I think
change
you
songs
hit
in
it. I
there.
never thought of it. They are producers. They are
Yeah,
the
they
people
are
that used to be
producers,
behind the scenes with somebody like I don't know, Rod
but
Stewart,
they're creating like the
a
entirety
vibe.
of the track. Yeah, they're not like the lead vocalist or not the drummer. They're the track. Like they may add vocals, they may get stuff, but they're creating the entirety of the track. And I think with a lot of electronic music, it's more about the music and then more about the like light show and in the electronic part of the show too.
Yeah,
Like there's
I mean
there's
they
two
have the
different
big festival
things
in Vegas too,
because
but
um you're not getting like the lead singer vibing with the crowd or something, or the drummer solo. Like it's just constant. And then like you think of like dubstep and the drop. Like there's parts of songs that really just hit harder than others, and there's definitely waves to the music. um but like yeah, I think it's just a different concerts are definitely way different for electronic music than like your concerts you go to.
well, yeah, because
And it's much more constant, I think.
I've been to clubs in Vegas, and where they have a
It's
major
different.
DJ, but the beats
There,
always it's all doom 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 doom,
well,
and
that's just cause I think that's just the way you interpret it. But I'll say Vegas like residencies are, I mean, they are playing the same stuff like night in
yeah.
night out typically. So it's much different than like
But to
a
me, you look at somebody like Michael Buble. He had that whole orchestra, the horn section, the talent that was there, or a band like Chicago. But I will
yeah,
say
but
this: you've got a DJ or a producer, and instead of bringing 10 semis of equipment for a big band where everybody's got the talent, what a great business model.
but yeah,
I'm one or
but
two guys playing music
you got
versus
you got to
Michael
think
Buble
too.
had 135 people for his tour.
You got to think too. Like, granted, Michael Bublé is the primary person, but and he has a lot of support like during his show. With a single like DJ producer, it's one person bringing everything to that typically. So
Yeah.
it's definitely and one of the coolest things I've listened to a lot of the different sets, but there's this place this like show and event in England called the Boiler Room, and
Never heard of
um
that.
it's typically electronic like producers and stuff,
In
and
London?
it's just like yeah, I think it's in London. But it's just a room and their equipment. There's no like the fan, like the crowd is on the stage around them. Um, like it's hard to describe. It's just like um it's just an event where the artist just goes into this room, like this large, like not large but a small medium venue, and like the lights are low, and there's no real stage, there's no light shows or anything. It's pretty much just the music, the
So it's a
warehouse it's
sensory
in.
deprivation kind of thing.
Not sensory deprivation. It's just like a show, but it's just like kind of raw, right?
Well, see,
And
I would love to see that. I'd love to see one of those concerts that they developed where there's no music being brought. It's all on headphones and people are jamming in a crowd to that.
the silent discos.
Yeah, that,
But
that cracks me up. But
there
go
was
ahead.
one recently by a guy called Fred Again. So Fred Again,
Yeah.
and he had this boiler room set that was incredible, and you can watch it. I'll have to link it to you. But just like it's a vibe thing. It's
Yeah.
like there were some parts of the song that just went like so hardcore that was crazy. There was another part where someone like unplugged his setup, basically it paused the music. I didn't went though, and he just kind of laughed it off because the people are like right next to him. He's just among
Yeah.
all the people, and he's just jamming, like creating off the top. Um, did some unreleased stuff during the set, but um yeah, it's in London, but like that's one of those things. It's like the raw like underground, and that's where I think a lot of the best stuff with like electronic music comes from. Is a lot of underground. Um,
Well, music changes. That's why you were talking about some of the weird things from my era. So I can't criticize what they're doing. Like who'd you mentioned earlier, and I can't remember his name, but I would love to go to his Sunday church thing. Married to the Kardashian, Yeezy. What's his name now? I don't even know.
Kanye.
Kanye. I mean, I still call him Kanye, but does he still go by Kanye?
Yeah, it's still
I mean,
Kanye.
his little gospel thing. I've seen videos of it. That looks fantastic.
Well, he's one of those people like the era of like late registration in that album, legendary. Nowadays, he's just like so out there, but you just like want to see him because he's still Kanye. He's just like his stuff that he like used to come out with was
Yeah,
on
I
another
mean,
level.
he gets on my nerves because he calls himself a genius, and you know what? Maybe he is. I think he's on the spectrum, maybe, but I think he'd be interesting, and I think some of his music I do like. I'd listen to it. Um, so
Childish Gambino is another one of those. Like
yeah, I like him too. I think he's a bizarre cat, but I would listen to him and go to his
you know,
shows.
is there's a song of I can't remember the name of the song, but it sounds like a female voice, and it's like
Uh,
his voice, like him
oh,
singing, like raw.
yeah. You know
It's
what?
crazy.
Let me backtrack. I took your sister to see the Tubes, and if you don't know the Tubes, Fee Waybill used to come out dressed in not much more than a spandex and high heels, and that was from this. I told her, that, yeah, this is a band from the '70s. Sang the song "White Punks on Dope." You'll love it. It's an alternative show, and he came out, and I remember the look on her face, like going, "Are you kidding me?" So
Well,
here's a
that's
guy older than me in spandex on stage, but he just
it's
played at Rockland
funny.
Quarry.
It's funny you mentioned that because there was a I gotta look something up now. So, so you like talked about like this dude coming out in this like weird clothing.
David
Um,
Bowie.
yeah, and like David Bowie. Someone posted. Oh yeah, so
Oh,
oh
I forgot about
wow, it
Talking
was
Heads.
the Tubes.
There you go.
Well, so someone on uh, mutual friend on Facebook
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
posted about the Tubes,
the
and I
dad.
saw this
He
photo.
played
Yeah,
drums.
and I was looking at this photo. I was like, man, like I was thinking of like how people are like the controversy of the modern day, and like this is
Oh,
like kind of the
transgender is.
this is the band you
Yeah,
grew
but
up with. It's
they,
crazy.
well,
Like
not
I
just
looked
him.
at
I
this
mean, the
picture
biggest
and I
one
was
was,
kind of
yeah, the
thinking
biggest
like
one was
of
David Bowie.
yeah, yeah. Which I'm pretty
But
sure
if
he
you look
has a
at Fee
movie coming out.
Waybill, if you look at his, our mutual friend that posted that, I think they had dinner together beforehand, and he looks like an average old guy.
Yeah,
So I
but
mean, it
look,
was a
like
show.
the people
That's the
in this
difference.
photo, like, uh, like you can't tell me like because the people who saw this are now the ones that would complain about something like this happening, and
Yeah.
it's kind of
Well, yeah.
it's ironic. Like the people that went to this show and participated in this show and enjoyed this show are probably now a lot of them like the
Very
reverse. And
conservative.
like if something were to happen and their kids at like 18 years old were to go to the same type of show, they would
No,
freak
no.
out.
I mean, I took Sammy to it, but I would say the difference now is because it would never happen back then. Um, the guy you paid $10 to go see, Fee Waybill, dressed as I wouldn't even say a woman, but in that outfit. Now you see that guy teaching your kids in elementary school. That's where you freak out.
Still, it's
None
kind of
of us would
ironic
have
to
said
me.
we want. All of us would say, "Yeah, Fee Waybill, great. Let's go see him. It's weird," but none of us would say, "Oh, we want him teaching our kids." Back then, now, or ever.
Yeah, yeah, but it's still like
Yeah, it's
ironic.
yeah,
I
very ironic. But see,
so
my heyday would have been the '80s in Santa Barbara, working at the County Bowl and the Arlington Theater, because you had a diverse mix of bands. Had some of the best reggae bands ever, from Jimmy Cliff, Toots and the Maytals, the Marley family almost came through to what people now consider yacht rock with Christopher Cross, Kenny Loggins, even Boz
Did you
Scaggs. I mean, he was
did you ever
phenomenal.
see did you ever see either the Jackson 5 or Michael Jackson?
I never saw the Jackson Five together. I don't think, because really they were when I was a kid, but I did see. I think I saw Michael Jackson in L.A. But I saw
Speaking of
who's the
Santa
sister?
Barbara area,
Yeah,
Janet.
Janet Jackson. I think she came to the County Bowl. I remember seeing her, and I think one of the brothers played somewhere, but I don't remember. You know, it was a Jackson Five. I grew up in the era where the Jackson Five you could get a record imprinted
Well,
on
the
the back of a
Jackson 5
cereal box.
would have been,
Early 70s.
was it early 70s? I
Yeah.
thought it was late 70s.
No, no,
Yeah, I mean,
they were
speaking of,
done.
you talked Santa Barbara area,
Jackson Brown.
infamously
That's the Jackson
Jackson
I saw.
Brown.
Who's still playing is
Um,
playing in Tahoe, I think, in a week.
so we just passed the hour mark, so we'll wrap this up. But
Wait,
um,
I want to also. There's too
one
much.
more
Santa Barbara is a great town for ska music, English beat, which still plays locally quite a bit here
English
because
beat.
they're from the Bay Area.
I play all the
God, what were
time.
some? Squeeze was another band that was great. Split Ends from New Zealand or Australia. God, there were just so many bands that were good. So,
Yeah,
all
it's
right.
definitely different. Like nowadays, like you're listing off all these like bands and
That are archaic and historic to you.
yeah, but like for my generation, it's typically rappers and pop stars.
Yeah,
Like
rap wasn't on the scene, and I remember in high school, I think
it
late
was
high school.
before rap was after your time,
No,
really.
there was a guy named Curtis Blowfly, and
Yeah, but I'm
for
saying
me, he
like
was the original. Yeah, it took off after.
as yeah, it launched late 80s, early 90s. That's when it
Well,
launched,
a
and
lot of people think that
the
it did the crossover from the black community to the white community when Aerosmith did "Walk This Way" with who was the rap group? Not Run DMC, or was it Run DMC? They
wasn't
did
it
the
Run
co.
DMC,
Well, I think it was. A
but
lot of people
yeah, for
credit that as crossing over.
interesting. Yeah,
And
I
it
mean,
did bring Aerosmith back because they were kind of nobody was going to see them at the time, and it did bring them back.
yeah, it's like but the launch of it was definitely like the late 80s, early 90s. That's
Yeah,
like uh, legendary time with like the like NWA. Um, actually, speaking of your white boys, you probably listened to
the
um
average white band. They played here at
no, the first like white boy rappers.
oh
Um,
the Brooklyn guys.
I'm bringing them up.
The two Jewish kids, but are old men now.
Yeah.
Beastie Boys.
Beastie Boys, yeah, Beastie Boys.
I gotta admit, I was never
Um,
into them because I'm more into them now than I was then because I thought they're not. Again, I was a Santa Barbara guy listening to guys like Bonnie Raitt, Jackson Brown, Nicolette Larson,
yeah,
Lyle Lovett.
you weren't in
I
that,
was into the
but
melody and the music and
that
the
was after your
lyrics.
era.
But
So
Beastie Boys, no, it was the same era. They just screamed. They were just like frat boys that
it
got
was
into
just like a
rap
kind
and
of
made it.
party. Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, they did
but
a great job, but come on.
yeah. So we'll wrap it up on that. The Beastie Boys, a good way to
Yeah, but I
wrap it
think
up.
we need to
Speaking of
do
rap, we're wrapping
a
it up.
Santa Barbara, a reminiscent about old Santa Barbara and the old music scene because it's just not there
Yeah,
anymore.
I don't know enough about to talk anything about that. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so we'll wrap it up here with talking about music this episode. Not really my specialty, but
Wait,
I'll talk a
here's
little
one
bit
for
about
you.
it.
I'm not going to let you end it yet because I'd always liked him, respect him, thought he was a great entertainer. And then I think for Christmas you bought me or my birthday $20 tickets. Can you say Kid Rock?
Oh, Kid Rock. We
I
went
don't
to
know if you
it. We
enjoyed it
went.
as much as I did. He puts on a great show, and he started out as what, a Detroit rocker, and is now a rocker. I mean, he.
He was a rich kid, though, wasn't he?
I don't think so. I think he was from the poor. You're thinking of Eminem too. I mean, he was a poor kid on
Eminem,
the
no, Eminem was very poor and
poor, yeah.
very
But
hardcore.
I think Kid
Pretty sure
Rock.
Kid Rock was affluent.
But he looked like, if you look at the early pictures, he was trying to be a rap star, and he had
Yeah, he was like rap
the
rock kind
fame.
of thing.
But you got to admit, he put on a great show. All the tickets were $20. You didn't like the show?
It was okay. I mean, it wasn't super good. I think I don't know. Some of his takes recently have been a little weird, but that's with any rock star. I mean, a lot of stuff has been fine, but like some of his,
Well, I think he's
um,
definitely he's more leaning like conservative. I mean, he hangs out with Hank Williams, hunts, and
yeah,
he's just
dude,
he's a redneck and he's not apologetic, which I love about him.
yeah, but he takes he brings himself off as this like white trash guy. And I wanted to double check it. He grew up. His dad owned a bunch of car dealerships, and he lived in a 6,000 square foot mansion. Like,
Oh, really?
but
Okay.
he
He
brings
played
himself
the
off as this like white trash kind of
yeah.
guy, but he's like the complete opposite. He was
Well, I will say
wealthy
this:
and
when
well
I
off.
first saw his pictures when he was a rapper, he had the kind of the not iced tea, ice. It was the white rapper guy, that Ice Baby, that
Vanilla
guy,
Ice.
Vanilla Ice. He kind of reminded me of Vanilla Ice with the haircut and everything. But he's embraced the redneck. He knows his audience. He plays to it. He
Yeah,
puts on a
he
great show.
definitely
He's
has embraced it. I
unapologetic.
mean,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah, it's just like he comes off that way as a little fake. I don't want to say a little. He comes off fake because
I don't
of
know if he's
like
fake, but yeah, like I said, I think
faking.
he's
Like
embraced
I
that
don't think
side.
you can fake your like your views and everything. But he like his background. Like he didn't grow up white trash.
Yeah, he's
He
not a 9 Mile Road kind of guy out of
no
Detroit.
no. Whereas
So
like if that was weird, Siri.
yeah,
But if you were like, if you were to say that, like, Eminem, now different
yeah,
people, but Eminem did live that life. Like
yeah.
he did grow up that like his life, early life was hardcore, and like
But it's
he ain't
weird. I
faking it.
think, but Kid Rock, I mean, obviously he has money now, but he has a trailer on, I think in Arkansas near Hank Williams' trailer, and they go out hunting and bow hunting and fishing. So he may be a rich kid, but I kind of like the way he's embraced the middle class and just kind of the average lifestyle of
Yeah.
a
So
millionaire. So with
so we'll end
that,
it
we can
with
end it.
Kid Rock, whatever.
Rap rock.
We're yeah, we're at what almost 10 minutes past the hour, so we'll end it
Don't want
there
to keep
at
people.
episode 11 of the At Wits End podcast. Again, find us. You probably listen to us on either YouTube at Wits End or your favorite podcast platform. You can also find us on TikTok, where we need
New
to add some
merch.
more videos. If you want a sticker, reach out to us. If you want to talk concerts, reach out to us. Love to hear what you have to say about it. Um, so yeah, we'll leave
And
it
we'll see
here,
you at
and we'll
Kid
see
Rock
you
next week.
Kid
Wheatland.
Rock next week.
Yeah.
Is he playing in Wheatland? Well,
Yep.
I won't see you because I am
I'm
headed
saying
out of
to
the country.
our vast following of viewers and listeners.
Yeah, our vast following. Well, to our vast following, I'm headed out of the country for a
uh,
weekend
you can't
out of
tell them to.
Austrian.
Yeah.
So I'm headed to it's one of the a
Darby.
true bucket list, a true bucket list thing for me. So
Yeah, I wish
I'm
I was.
super excited about that.
I would go too. I wish I could.
Yeah, it's something I've always wanted to do, and
But you should
for the
take
things I
lots of
like,
pics and video.
not a concert. So I know you love concerts, and a concert,
Yeah, but I love
for a band
events.
that you
You're
love,
going to a
you would
great
love to go
event.
to a stage, but like for an event of my liking, this is near the top of stuff. So catch us probably in a week and a half. We'll probably do a special
Just on that.
midweek episode. Potentially we'll
Nice
follow our
teaser,
normal
Carson.
release schedule, but we'll have a midweek episode about that next
Good.
week. So
All right.
signing off,
Talk to y'all later.
episode 11. See y'all later.